morning, everyone, and welcome to Think Future. My name's Calabucas, and once again, we're coming at you live from deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. We're talking innovation startups of the future, not necessarily those, and not necessarily in that order. If you're watching on YouTube, smack that subscribe button and hit that bell so you'll get notified when a new show comes online. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast service, please subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcast. I greatly appreciate it. That would be awesome. What am I talking about today? Yes, the big bad, the big bad. So I watched The Eternals last weekend on with my kids. And one of the interesting things about The Eternals is that it provides, in most new media, most new movies that are coming out nowadays, and most TV, most movies, most mainstream entertainment that's coming out, even not mainstream entertainment, all entertainment, let's just say that, all head entertainment, so not necessarily tail entertainment, not necessarily YouTube and other things that influencers and other YouTubers have created, but let's say head entertainment like Disney and all the big boys. I've noticed there's a pattern, there's a parallel, there's an issue with the whole concept of conflict, because in all of these things, in all of these media, there has to be conflict. If there isn't conflict, this is what human beings find interesting, right? We find conflict interesting and we watch conflict. Why do you think people watch things like Big Brother or Survivor? Because there's conflict. There's generated conflict. It's created conflict, but there's conflict nonetheless, right? And it's just created conflict. Now, we used to be culturally as human beings in a situation where it was really easy for us to indicate the bad guys, right? Who was a bad guy, right? Because prior to a certain period in time, there could be bad guys. For example, the Nazis during World War II were pretty much, you could say, bad guys, although you could say that a lot of them didn't really want to do what they were doing, but they were directed to do what they were doing. But they were bad guys that everyone culturally agreed were bad guys, more or less, right? And there are eras and periods of time when culturally certain individuals or certain types of people could be indicated as bad guys. There's no big bad guy anymore because everybody, there's no such thing as evil. Evil has been eliminated in media because it's no longer evil. It is a different point of view. It's an alternative vision. It's another way of looking at the world. So how can you have conflict between protagonists and antagonists when you can't actually say that this person is really bad? Why would you say this person is really bad? What makes them really bad? There is no longer a big bad that we can point to. And here's another example. Say James Bond. So during the Cold War, the Russians were the bad guys. And then there was a period of time when they made Colombian drug lords the bad guys. And now you go watch No Time to Die and you go, who's the bad guy here? The bad guy is a bad guy because he was turned into a bad guy by another bad guy, and you kind of feel sorry for him, but then blah blah blah, and etc. So there is no longer, and all the Eternals had this problem too. Thanos was the bad guy in Endgame, but since then, the bad guys have been so amorphous and hard to pin down that it's almost impossible to create an emotional connection to the characters. How do you create an emotional connection to characters when you can't hate the same person or love the same person or get into the same mindset as the characters? I think that's what's ended up happening. And plus, we also have the CG issues where people are looking at these characters and they're going, those are CG. How can I care about them? Those are robots. How can I care about them? But I digress. So I think what's happened is culturally we've moved into this shattered reality. We're in this shattered reality now where every individual, every group has different big bads and little bads and goods and big goods and little goods, and we're niching down into a situation where it's almost impossible to have a mass following or a mass set of individuals following in the same direction. We can't have sort of cultural moments anymore like we used to, because everything is so broken up and shattered that the major cultural events have disappeared from our radar, because we're all getting a completely different reality of what's out there. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, because everybody's thinking about how can we get a massive audience for this or a massive audience for that. But we can't, because those markets are niche smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and you have to try and figure out how to extract massive value from a tiny market instead of a little bit of value from a massive market, because it's almost impossible today to have a massive market of anything. That's it for me for today. See you next time, and until then, don't forget to think future.